Good morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. We're going to go ahead and start on homework, and we're going to start talking about some time. Now, when we're talking about a time number line, the number line we've talked about in class, we talk about time being linear. That means it goes in a line. One thing happens after another. It's chronological. So remember, our day starts at 12 a.m. Our day ends at 12 a.m. And the very halfway point through our day is 12 p.m. And then remember, if we're talking about a fourth of the way through our day, which would be here, that would be 6 a.m. I'm not going to write that on the number line. And then 3/4 would be 6 p.m. Now, we're being asked here to find the amount of time between these two times. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on my number line. So 7:45 is between 6 and 12. So I'm going to say about here would be 7:45 a.m. and 4:20 would be before 6. So 4:20 would be here. So 4:20 p.m. Now, going to change colors here. I am trying to figure out how much time there is between 7:45 and 4:20. So what I'm thinking first, if I'm starting at 7:45, we want to think about how many minutes are in an hour. So remember that in 1 hour, we have 60 minutes. In a half of an hour, we have 30 minutes. In 1/3 of an hour, we have 20 minutes, breaking an hour into 3 pieces. And then remember, in a fourth of an hour, we have 15 minutes. So that's going to be helpful for us. That means that in 1/4 of an hour, there's 15 minutes. So in 2/4 of an hour, there's 30 minutes. That's half. 3/4 of an hour would be 45 minutes. And then, of course, 4/4 is the full hour, which is 60 minutes. Now, what I'm noticing is from 7:45, if I wanted to jump up to the next hour, so if I wanted to know what was the next hour, which is 8 o'clock, that's going to be 15 minutes. Now, from this point, I just have to figure out where can I go next. Now, progressively, we can go from 8. I always try to make it to the center point in the day. So if I went from 8 to 12, that would be 4 hours. And from that point, we can use our skills to get all the way up to 4:20. And I'm going to let you guys finish that. Now, remember, when we get there, we want a total time, because it says then find the amount of time that elapses between these two times. We're going to then have to add all those pieces together to get our total time. So think about that number line being used there, and see if you can make that work. All right, let's erase that. Let's go down. So the next piece says solve each problem below. So we shall do so. The first one says 6 3/4 plus 5 7/8. First thing that pops into my mind is I see those whole numbers 6 and 5. I know together that would make 11, but I also know that 3/4 and 7/8 are both only missing one piece from a whole, so they're both more than half. So that's going to give me another whole. So I'm just thinking right off the start that it must be 12 and something. So I'm going to make my common denominators. So 6 3/4, I make my common denominator up here between 4 and 8. It's going to be 8. So the second fraction can stay the same. And the first fraction, I know if there's an 8 in my denominator, I multiplied by 2. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top, which is going to be 6/8. So 6 6/8 plus 5 7/8 is going to give me 11. And what I know is that this 7/8 right here only needs one more piece to make a whole. So that's going to give me 5 extra remaining. So we'll deal with that in a second. 13/8, and then I'm going to let you decide then what does this mean and what is remaining from that. And then don't forget to simplify if you need to. Now, the second problem, I want you to know right from the start that when we're subtracting, in this case, you see 3/4 and a 2/3. Now, both of those fractions are missing one piece from a whole. 3/4 is missing a smaller piece. It's only missing a fourth. Therefore, 3/4 is bigger. When I'm subtracting away 3/4, I know that it's bigger than 2/3, so I know I'm going to have to regroup in this case. Now, the first thing I'm going to start off doing here is finding my common denominator. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 4, 8, 12. There's my common denominator. So now I'm going to make both of these into 12ths. Thinking, what times 3 gave me 12? Well, that'd be 4. And 4 times the numerator 2 is 8. And for the second one, what times 4 here gives me 12? That'd be 3. 3 times the numerator gives me 9. Now, again, we can see it here. We can't take 9/12 away from 8/12. So I want you to think about how that process of regrouping is going to work here. And I want you to give that a try. Now, after you do that again, make sure that you simplify if you need to. All right, we'll move on from there to our last problem. So it says, over this past weekend, Jay and Josie went to the new Jumanji movie. They thought it was the greatest thing ever. Because they loved it so much, they decided to see it over and over and over. And in total, they saw it 14 times this past weekend. So they watched 14 They watched that movie 14 times. And each time was $11.50. So $11.50, and I'm just going to say $11.50 per ticket. And that's $11.50 for each person. Every single time they both got a large popcorn to share. So they got one large popcorn to share. So one large popcorn each time. And in total, so the total was $426.86. The question says, how much was one large popcorn? So again, we know here that the total amount, change colors, the total amount that they spent is over here, which is $426.86. That means that's just a piece. Now, every time you go to the movies, you have to buy a ticket. And they saw this movie 14 times, but there are 2 girls. So I'm going to say if each time they had to pay $11.50, I'm thinking $11.50 times 14 tickets. Now, here's the thing. That's going to give us the cost for one girl. We need the cost for 2 girls. So whatever this number is, I know that I'm going to have to then, so whatever this is, we'll call it X. I know that I'm going to then have to multiply that number by 2 because I know that that's only the cost for one girl to buy a ticket to each movie. Now, we know that this total over here includes all of those tickets. If we could take away the amount for all of the tickets from this total, we are only left with the cost for all of the popcorns. And I'm going to give you one last hint. For this problem, if we think of how many popcorns they bought one each time to share. So they bought 14 popcorns. If we know how much all of the popcorns are, think what we can do to find the cost of just one popcorn. And I'm going to leave you at that point, see if we can get the rest, and I think we can there. So give that one a shot. Really awesome job. Let's keep up the hard work, and I'll see you guys later.